So first of all, I think it's very interesting the way children, these were children from 6 years old up to 18 years old in different groups. And it amazed me every single time the way they responded to what we talked about. It left me always with my heart open also, because it's something that most of us, I feel, didn't have the opportunity to hear or to enter into contact with when we were children. Our parents and teachers don't talk to us about emotions, about our inner life, and about how we can interact with it to be happy, right? So I think it's something that can have a very meaningful, deep and lasting impact in someone who hears with attention. And for me it was a funny experience because you all remember how you felt when you were teenagers, right? Or children. So it can be very scary to be presented with the idea of going to talk to 90 teenagers at a time that usually don't care about anything and nothing. And first of all, I wanted to explain a little bit what I just did with you guys. I did 3 things. First of all, I presented the idea that I was going to talk about in a way that you became interested. In neuroscience, this means that your brain releases dopamine, so it heightens your attention. Every time you do this to someone who's talking to you, like tell a story with letting the end open, they will become interested, attentive, even if they are thinking of something else. Then if you tell something that makes them empathetic, like feel something, like you say something that they already felt in their lives, like when we talked about how good it would be for us it would have been for us to have this talk about emotions and inner life when we were children. It releases something in your brain that's called oxytocin. It's the same hormone people release during sexual relationships or when a mother gives birth to a child. So immediately the people who are listening to you become even more attentive. They become more empathetic. And third of all, if you tell, this was a little tiny joke, it didn't have the impact I was waiting for you, but you are a big consciousness public. If you tell a joke, it releases serotonin in their body. They laugh a little bit and they relax, it makes them open. So this is called the attention cocktail in neuroscience. If you can do these 3 things to any person that's hearing you, they will absorb much more whatever you tell them. And so this experience was with children between 6 and 18 years old, divided into groups: 6 to 8, 8 to 11, 12 to 14, 15 to 18. I think it was more or less like this. Groups that varied between 40 and 90 children at a time. And it was not possible, not even convenient, not even right to talk with them with spiritual and or religious concepts, because it can raise, in my experience, whenever you talk in a Catholic country about God, people or are devotees and they understand, and if they are not, they immediately raise a barrier and they won't hear anything that you, even if it's about the meaning of life, the most important things in the universe, people won't hear you anymore. So a thing I learned during talks with patients and people and children was to do not use certain words that can raise barriers, and use simple words that they can understand, that they have experienced. And of course, depending on the ages of the children, we can use different techniques. For example, with small children from 6 to 9, I always use the beginning of a story, and I tell them that a prince made of light came to me, and asked me to teach those children how to become princes of light also, and princesses of light. And I always ask them if they believe me that that is possible. And they say, no, no, it's impossible, it's impossible. And then after explaining these concepts that I'm going to talk about after, I ask them to close their eyes and to imagine a little sun in their chests, in their hearts, or a little light, and then to spread that sun. I guide them in a meditation in which they spread the light through their bodies and then around their bodies. And children that age are so sensitive that they feel it very well, very well. And by the end of the meditation, all of them, I ask them again, now do you believe that it's possible to become princesses of light? And they all say, yes, yes. It's amazing. So I first begin to tell them that I want to speak to them about something very important that can really change the course of their lives if they're a little bit attentive and they give me 10 to 15 minutes of their full whole attention. Then I ask them if they could say in one word what is the thing that they most want of and for their lives, which thing is. And it amazes me because almost all of them say joy, happiness, love, or fun. Almost all of them immediately. It's amazing. Some of them speak about things or professions, or some elderly, but that gives us an excuse to ask them, but why do you want that? Why do you want that job? And they eventually end up saying, because I think it will make me happy. So it's clear for all of them, and and it's also clear that they are together in that. What every single person wants is to be happy, to be joyful, to be loving, to have fun, right? And then I ask them to point at where joy and fun and happiness is. And a funny case happened once when there was a little girl named Joy, so everyone pointed at her. But in the rest of the cases, they pointed at themselves inside. That amazes me also. They know joy is inside, right? And even in the cases where they point at someone or something that causes them joy, it's an excuse to ask them, okay, that causes joy, but where do you feel it? Where does it come from? Joy, happiness, fun. And they eventually say, in the brain, in the mind, or in the heart, or in the body. And I always guide them to understand that where they feel those emotions are inside of themselves, inside of that thing they call I. Most of them they feel in the heart. And then I ask them, okay, but you don't always feel good emotions, right? You don't always feel joy and love. You sometimes also feel what we usually call bad emotions or negative emotions. And they always say, yes, of course. And I continue by saying, I'm prepared to tell you, and please disagree with me if you think I'm wrong, that these bad emotions are not bad in themselves, are not negative. They can be and are amazing teachers, spectacular needed teachers, because every one of us has once in our life at least burned themselves in a flame. This is an image that everyone has, so it causes a great impact and they feel it. Yes, we got burned. And what did you learn? To get burned causes pain, right? And a little bit of fear of the flame. But that's not bad, because you learn that the flame and the heat, it's good for cooking, it's good for heating, it's even nice to look at, but it's not to touch. Your body doesn't belong in contact with fire. So that pain, that fear, and I always say that after they learn a lesson, they can, instead of calling it fear, call it respect, know the proper place of things. You know for what the fire is good and for what is not. So that pain, that bad emotion was an amazing teacher. And it is like that with every single bad, negative emotion in your lives. If you are attentive, if you are conscious, when that emotion happens inside you, you can see what it's trying to teach you. You can learn from it. It's a protection, it's a security, it's a shield, so you don't fall from a precipice, so you don't hit your tiny finger in your bed. And this is also an image that provokes great impact, because everyone remembers of hitting a little finger in some part of the house. And this, keeping them in the conversation and evoking images that all of us have experienced and have a great emotional connotation, it's amazing to keep their attention, because it's very hard to keep the attention of 90 children at a time. But keeping them interested and asking them to raise their fingers to make questions if they want to, and tell us about their own experiences, keep them interested in the conversation and in each other, also, and in the energy that we can feel. And so we continuing, we can see that these bad emotions are not bad. They can be great teachers. They become great imprisoners if we let them rule our lives. If we wake up and we go by the rest of the day fearing that a fire jumps out of a tree and burns us, we are not letting that fear or that respect or that pain teaching us anymore. We are letting it imprisoning us. And so we are letting that fear, that bad emotion in this case, to prevent us from having the joy, the happiness and the fun that we want to. So we can, if we are conscious and attentive, learn to distinguish when one of these emotions is teaching us something and when it is imprisoning us. But we prefer, right, to have good and positive emotions, to feel good inside ourselves. We prefer that. But both good and bad emotions are inside of us. By that point, all of us have already understood and felt that while we are talking. And then we continue by my proposition of making a little exercise that if you give me 2 minutes of your full attention, can completely change the way you see these emotions, your inner life. And I ask them to close their eyes and to think of a happy, a joyous, or a fun memory, or a loving memory in their lives. It can be whichever. It can be subtle, it can be very enthusiastic and very strong. The happiest memory can be yesterday, the beginning of your lives. A happy, good, emotional memory. And they close their eyes, and immediately you start seeing smiles sparkle in a lot of faces. And for 2 minutes, guided meditation, where it is asked for them to feel, to remember what they were hearing, what they were seeing, what they were touching, but especially to remember what they were feeling, what was the quality, the movement, the power of that emotion, and where in themselves they could feel it. Where in their bodies, how were their bodies and their consciousness and their minds feeling inside, the inner feelings. And after 2 minutes, I asked them to open their eyes, and I asked them if all of them have felt at least a little bit of a good emotion inside, and 100% of them always say yes. And then I say, you have experienced, proved to yourself something that you have already done in your lives before, but you were not conscious of it, that you have full control and power over your inner life. If at any moment in your life you are feeling a fear that imprisons you, shame, guilt, any emotion that is not teaching you something but is not allowing you to feel good, you can just go inside yourself, evoke a memory of something positive, something good, something joyous, and immediately that emotion comes to you. You can call it, you can invoke it. And the more you do this, like the same way that you learn to play football, and at the beginning you are very bad at kicking the ball, but you become better and better and better, and at playing the piano and at painting, the more you do it, the better you become at it. The more you practice this, evoking your positive emotions, feeling where they are in the body, and you can even then learn to spread them all over your body. You can learn to, at some point in your life, even without a memory, just by asking, you can light up yourself like a Christmas tree and be filled with positive emotions. All of them understand very clearly that they can do it. It's amazing because you can always see there are, and this is another thing that's very interesting, when you look at them, you can see that different kinds of personalities always group themselves exactly in the same positions. The more rebel ones always come to the front. And if they are rebel but introvert, they are usually at that side. It's the right side for them. And if they are rebel but they like to be the ones who are seen and to be talked about, they are in front and in the middle. It's amazing. And there are some always, you can see which ones are ancient souls, because there are always a percentage of them. It's not very high, but they go into meditation so fast and so deep, it even makes me jealous because they're very small and they close their eyes and immediately go into the depths. And what? How is this possible? Some of them, of course, are not interested, and we always at the beginning take all of the pressure of them, and we say that if they do not want to hear us or they are not interested, it's perfectly okay. They can get up and go to the next to the tree or go to talk to some friends. Take all the pressure of them. Sometimes we have time and power to do a second meditation, that is to light up the light or a positive emotion in the heart and spread it through the body. But I found out with experience that usually they cannot keep the attention for more than 15 minutes because they are too many, and if one begins to talk, it spreads like fire. But the impact that last time we could do this, we could even do it in a different place, that is a place of power. And they were sit in a position where they had a big view in front of them, expanse. And we did a cross of Buddha. Of course, I didn't call it that, but we did cross of Buddha. And with very small children. And at the end, some of them even came to hug me. It was amazing because they were filled with positive emotions. It was beautiful. Many of them come to ask questions at the end. I always make them feel free to ask any questions they are. In some groups, I felt that we could, and we talked about the responsibility of good emotions, because, and all of us have felt it when we were children, and even when we are adults. And I always ask them about this, the feeling of entering a space. And in English, I think you can cut the air with a knife. Do we use that expression in English? It's like the air, it's heavy. It's so heavy, so sticky that you can cut it, filled with bad emotions, right? Everyone has felt that. And also everyone has felt entering into a new space, it suddenly opens up. There's joy, there's brightness, there's lightness in the air. And so that proves to any of us that emotions are not just inside us, but also all around us. And that gives us the responsibility, not just with and for ourselves, to generate and take control of this inner life of ours, but also towards the space and the people around us. Because the emotions we carry spread around us in space. It's something that's scientifically proven. And another example that they can feel very easily too, it's how those emotions that we carry with us multiply when we are in the presence of other people with the same emotions or space in the same emotions. And they know that because That's why it is so easy for all of them in that children's camp to be always happy, because they are in the company of another 69 children that are also feeling joyous and fun and happy. Usually I finish up thanking them and asking them if they have any questions. A lot of them do. Right now I can't remember any specific ones that we haven't talked about. But well, this was the way that consciousness showed me. We could speak to a group of very different personalities and children that would leave an imprint, a mark that they could, I'm sorry, very important. I always challenge them for the next couple of days while they are in the children's camp, every time they feel a negative emotion, that it's not teaching them something but is imprisoning them and not allowing them to have fun and to feel love and joy and happiness, that they just stop for a moment, relax, and with eyes closed or eyes open, try to remember that one good, positive, strong emotion. And if they are fearful, for example, if they are climbing a wall that they have a wall to climb, and they are fearful to take the next step, to just think of something beautiful, relax, and try to take the next step. And if they are ashamed, they feel ashamed of going to talk to some friend that they want to hug or say something beautiful, but they feel shy, that close their eyes or not, think of something beautiful, think of something, a moment in their lives where they were able to be brave and go and say that thing or hug them anyway. And always repeat a lot of times, because if what we want is to be joyful, to be fun, to have fun, to be loving, then we shouldn't waste our lives, taking into account that we have control of our inner life, these emotions happening inside ourselves, that we shouldn't waste our lives with those feeling tired, feeling small, feeling shy, but we should enjoy and have fun and use every power and everything around and inside us to accumulate and better and improve and make more powerful those good emotions. And the feedback is usually amazing. Some days later, their coordinators come and say, there was a little boy that was fear of riding the slide to the pool, but he said, but that man yesterday said that we could think of something beautiful and have more courage. So I did it and I could do it. And it's someone who calls their parents and said, Daddy, I was afraid to tell you that I love you, but one guy yesterday said that it's okay to have fear and we can say things and we can show our love, and I decided to tell them, and it's amazing. It's talking to children. It's like they're transparent. We also need to be very careful, because they absorb everything we say like sponges, especially the younger ones. But it's amazing.